Good morning, good morning, good morning. I need the house lights up because I have to take your picture. I was sitting there in meditation going, oh, I wish they could all see this. And I thought, well, they can. Maybe not in this very moment now, and I know my camera is supposed to be able to do something where I can take everybody's picture together, but I'm going to have to go across. Do you know how beautiful you are? I'm like, I hear them, I got it. How about the rest of us? Yes. This morning I wanted to touch on 2 of the 12 powers that these wonderful young people have been steeping themselves in. And it always begins with a big adventure. Whatever story, whatever myth it is. Yesterday, I was privileged to officiate a wedding. The young lady is Sikh, and the fiancé, Catholic. So now you know why they found me. And I was very excited, and it's been wonderful, and one of the things I do with weddings is I co-create with the bride and groom what it is that is a reflection of who they are for their ceremony. And I arrived in Pasadena, Maryland yesterday to discover the chairs were all outside on the waterfront. And in that moment, I thought this big adventure I had said yes to was perhaps more than I could bear. I like a lot of things about the weather. The wind is probably my greatest challenge. But of course, I'm the minister, so I can't wear my coat. I have to have on my black jacket and my stole. Well, I did shove a sweater underneath. Thank goodness my black jacket was rather large. And I'm standing there, and the wind is blowing, and the bride's veil is about to come over my head. And at first I think the groom is crying because he's doing this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, no, his nose is running just like mine is. This big adventure is not what I anticipated. And then I even remember looking at the last 3 pages of the ceremony going, what can I cut out? Get me back inside. Well, let me paint another picture for you. Several years ago, my family had the opportunity to travel to Brasilia, Brazil, which is where my brother-in-law lives, and he was getting married. And of course, we didn't have a whole lot of information except I knew they spoke Portuguese. But the adventure starts before you ever get there. Can I get an amen? Remember, I'm telling a story, but I'm also inviting you to find yourself in that story. In life, our big adventures have elements that let us know it's probably not going to be the way we've anticipated it. So we had a very long flight from Kansas City to Brasilia, Brazil, because there are no direct flights to the capital of Brazil at that time. And so we had to fly to Sao Paulo. And what had actually happened is that 5 days before we arrived in Sao Paulo, there had been a plane accident, a very tragic plane accident at one of the 2 airports in Sao Paulo, not the one that we were going to. They had closed that airport down. So we'd been warned there are going to be more people than normal. Well, okay, no worries. It was a Sunday night when we left Kansas City, and in Sao Paulo it was going to be 4 a.m. into Monday morning. I thought, no worries. We get off the plane, and there are people pushing carts with chickens and goats, and the airport folks, even though I'm sure they really were supposed to be able to help us who speak English, they didn't. So we went to one gate, and we're told, where's your luggage? We said, well, we're flying the same airline. We were told the luggage would just go on through. And they're like, oh, no, you got to go back to the very far end of the airport, get your luggage, and then bring it back. amidst all the chickens and the goats. And I kept saying, Ogun, what's going on? Why are there people pushing carts with chickens in cages? I couldn't get past that. And it's 4 a.m. Where are all these people and why aren't they at home asleep? And he just looked at me, he's like, you are so not a world traveler. So we get our luggage and we come back. And of course, the line is 3 times as long as it was before. We're going to miss our flight. We're going to be stuck here in the middle of the night with the chickens and the goats, and we're going to miss our flight. I'm just beside myself. So I go from, I'm not kidding, me, the introvert, goes from person to person in this line. Can we please get in front of you? We've got to catch our plane. Can we please get in front? Ogun's like, oh, I don't know her. He's like, get in the back of the line. I'm like, no, this family's going to let us in. So we did. He's like, honey, the plane is not going to leave without us. I said, you don't know? In America, they don't hold the plane. He said, well, we're not in America. He said, and what's going to happen is they're going to say, if you're on flight so-and-so and so-and-so, please come to the front of the line. I said, I have never been to an airport in the United States where they said that. If you get there late, you're just out of luck. Sure enough, if you're on flight so-and-so and so-and-so to Brasilia, Brazil, please come to the front of the line. And so we did. I threw out every spiritual tool I had in that 45 minutes because I was sure there was no spiritual tool that was going to help us make our flight. And that was, what we needed to do. How often on the big adventure are things very, very different than we anticipate. Even when we've planned, we've got everything in place, we've checked our list, right? How many of you make a list when you travel? Oh, come on. The rest of you just forget things. I don't know about you guys over here, but if you haven't started using lists, I promise it'll help you when you get in high school. Oh, we got a list maker. Yay, all right. I've been a list maker all my life. Even when we think we have everything figured out, we have the solution in our hand, sometimes it just doesn't turn out the way we think it will. Sometimes on the big adventure, success is going to look a very different way than we thought it would. So what's one of those inner resources that we can call upon, even if it's at the last moment like it was for Indiana Jones? Spiritual strength. That part of us that knows that we know that we can, despite how the circumstances change, we can do it. We can make that leap. We can grab hold of whatever string, strand, cord that just seems to even almost be out of reach, but we can grab that and pull ourselves up from that place of spiritual strength. Because we have physical strength too. Spiritual strength allows us to say, in the split moment, this is what's happening, and here's what I can use from deep within myself. And sometimes that spiritual strength looks like, I'm going to call a friend who will remember with me that truth. Or that spiritual strength might look like, I'm going to up my spiritual practice. So if I meditate for 15 minutes in the morning, maybe I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes at night as well. Spiritual strength also invites us into a disciplined practice. So similar to creating that list, we create a program for ourselves. Somebody said, well, I can't meditate twice a day at 15 minutes every day. I said, well, just give it a week. If it's made no difference in your life, come on back, let's have another conversation. Do you know no one has ever come back and wanted to have another conversation? Because when we up our spiritual practice, because we know we're strong enough to make priorities, and we have got an inner spiritual strength that will support us in keeping those commitments we make to ourselves, we are assured of success. One of my very, very favorite Bible verses is John 3:16. And for those of us who grew up in a church like the Baptist church, we were probably taught that as part of a class, a ritual, or initiation. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Well, as we discover in unity, remember we take a nugget from a sacred writing like the Bible, and we say, what does that have to do with us today? How can we apply that to our life? And in unity, we look often to our co-founder, Charles Fillmore. This is what Charles Fillmore said in one of his talks, and this is a collection of his talks called Christian Healing. If you want to know more about it, I'm sure we have one of these copies in our lending library right outside this door. This is what Charles Fillmore writes. He says that truth cannot be imparted, it must be individually expressed. The presence of divine mind that's in the soul cannot be told in words. It can be hinted at and referred to in parables, but it can never be described as it is. The ability of the individual mind to catch and combine the ideas of divine mind into a consciousness of its own makes each of us the only begotten Son. Truth cannot be imparted. It cannot be given to us. It must be individually experienced and expressed. So if we have the strength within us, part of that strength is going to ask us to be that truth. And when we're asked to be that truth, sometimes we're asked to make a leap of faith. What if in the leap of faith we do just as his Father reminded him? You have to believe. And what did he do before he made that leap of faith? Did anybody notice on the screen? What did he do? He took a deep breath. That's a great thing for us to do. What else did he do? Yeah, he stopped for just a moment instead of letting that fear get a hold of him, and he was taking that deep breath and saying a prayer. And he put his hand on his heart. He put his hand on his heart. Let's all do that together right now. Let's put our hand on our heart. I promise this week to take a leap of faith. Together? I promise this week to take a leap of faith. I choose to believe. I choose to believe. And so it is. Amen. Namaste.